NFL fans. Are you ready? This is the podcast on all things NFL. The fantasy football players you should sit, ones you should start, guest speakers, game recaps, pre-game predictions, plus live call-ins from viewers, and so much more. Welcome to NFL Talk Live with your hosts, Reigning Ravens 1 and Alex, aka PurpleSwordfish.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to Week 9 edition of NFL Talk Live. I'm your host, Reigning Ravens 1, joined by my beloved co-host, Alex, a.k.a. PurpleSwordfish. PurpleSwordfish, how you doing, How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Doing pretty well. For those of you guys who may or may not follow me on Twitter, you know that I took several days off and flew back to Chicago. I was able to watch some football out there in Central Time Zone where all the games start at noon instead of 10 a.m. So it was a much welcomed change to my life. What do you think about Week 8? I mean, a lot has happened within the last time you and I ran this podcast. I mean, there's been trades, there's been upsets, there's some teams winning that shouldn't be winning, there's some teams that's losing that shouldn't be losing. What do you make of this nonsense that's going on in the league right now, Alex?
Well, Week 8 was pretty predictable, I think, and I know your picks were really good. Mine were okay, so I don't feel like this was as unpredictable as previous weeks have been, but I will say the trade deadline moves completely shocked me. There were a couple shockers in there, and this NFL season continues to be completely unpredictable.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, before we even get into what happened last week, I want to say, like, this is one of the just to piggyback off what Alex just said. This has been a very unpredictable type of year. It's really any given Sunday. You think of that as like, okay, maybe that's something that people say around the bar here and there, but no, it is actually true. Any team can win any week. Period. I mean, we got NFL teams that have no wins. We got teams that are 7-1, looking like legendary Super Bowl early favorites. Man, last week I went 13-2 on my Week 7 picks. The best week I've ever had so far in picks in general. I've never, ever had only 2 games wrong. And then I go ahead and top that by Week 8. My Week 8 picks, they were 12-1. 12-1. I picked all the games correctly. As you can probably see, hold on one second. There we go. It should be on the screen. I thought maybe you guys couldn't see it, but here were my Week 8 picks. You can see I got everything correctly except the Panthers and Buccaneers game. Alex, I'm not going to pester you about this. You know, you had nothing to do with it. You weren't calling the shots. But the Buccaneers, man, they're a team that's baited me for some time this year. And I think that's coming to an end. What do you make of that? Let's just talk about that game real quick. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, first off, Jameis Winston doesn't look completely healthy. I know that that's been the excuse that most people have been throwing around in Tampa and the surrounding areas. And I agree, he doesn't look completely healthy. But let's be honest, the rest of that offense really just wasn't stepping it up. The Bucs struggled significantly trying to run the ball to the right side of the offensive line, and then they could only run it to the left side. Panthers made an adjustment. That kind of shut down the run game. They got behind by a little bit. They can't use the run game, which honestly was the only aspect of their game that was working. And, you know, the Panthers, they're a good defensive unit. You know, once they know you're only going to pass, it's kind of game over.
Yeah.
And then finally, I know I've been saying it all year, but it sounds kind of obvious, but when Jameis Winston does not take care of the football, and he didn't do that this Sunday, the Bucs stand almost no chance of winning. It all comes down to him, unfortunately. And this week he was not good protecting the football. I think that we're dangerously close, if you're a Tampa Bay fan, to packing it in, shutting down Jameis Winston, and just kind of tanking for a draft pick. because they're not going to keep him out there with a shoulder injury to his throwing arm much longer if there are no playoff aspirations.
Right. I was thinking the same thing. Once we get into our Week 9 picks, I will reveal a formula that I have. I think if they implement my formula, the Buccaneers, I think they can pull out more wins. I'm just looking at what's worked with them so far this year, what hasn't worked. But we'll get into that. Before we get into all the Week 9 stuff, is there anything that surprises you this week, aside from the crazy trades that have happened? Some of them make sense, some of them sound crazy, like the Bills acquiring Kelvin Benjamin from the Panthers, giving up only 3rd and 7th round picks for him. 49ers trade cornerback Rashad Robinson to the Jets, and release QB Brian Hoyer, a guy that's been their mainstay of their offense for this year, and they just let him loose. Here's a shocker. Dolphins trading away Jay Ajayi for a 4th round pick. I didn't see that coming, and when I did see it coming, I thought for sure we were all being pranked. Because why would Miami get rid of their, for all intents and purposes, their number 1 guy? He's probably one of the best guys in that offense. Why get rid of him? And to get rid of him for a 4th round pick, no less. Jimmy Garoppolo going to the 49ers for a 2nd overall pick, or second round pick, rather. Seattle acquiring Dwayne Brown from the Texans. Jacksonville getting Marcel Darius from the Bills for a 6th round pick, which, by the way, Jacksonville, enough is enough. How many defensive tackles do you need? How many linemen do you need? I guess enough's not enough when it comes to Jacksonville Jaguars. What do you make of the craziness of Week 8? I mean, there were some crazy games in there, Alex.
I mean, as far as the games, I think the Dolphins game got out of hand really quick. I did not see that coming. That shocked me. It got out of hand in terms of score. It also got out of hand in terms of chippiness amongst the teams. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of times where I thought there might be sideline clearing brawls, not just when the Flacco incident occurred with Kiko Alonso, but which I know a lot of people on Twitter know exactly how both Double R and I feel about that one. But, the Ndamukong Suh, Ryan Mallett situation, I thought that one could have escalated. It was really testy out there, and it gets that way when you have two teams that are both competitive teams. Both of those guys have competitors, and it's a blowout, and the other team is going to get really upset because they're getting blown out on national TV. Everybody's watching. That was a little bit of a shock. Obviously, did not foresee the Bucs having such a bad week. In addition to that, I got to give the Bears a little credit. They gave the Saints a little bit more run than I thought they would. Same goes for the Colts. So kudos to those two teams. I think they're still playing for draft picks, but they did really show up. And then finally, I know this won't come as a shock to most people, but I'm really shocked that Houston, given that they handed the car keys over to Deshaun Watson so quickly this season, I think it took them all 2 quarters to give him the car keys to that franchise. In the 4th quarter on 3rd down, they ran it again instead of letting Deshaun Watson go for a 1st down that would have effectively ended that game against Seattle.
I think that's
that was a shock. Yeah, that was a shock to me. I thought for sure they would let Deshaun Watson take a shot, a safe shot, but still a shot to try and put that game away.
Exactly. Deshaun Watson is he is coming into full form. He is the guy that they drafted him in hopes that he would be. He's become that guy. Just a tremendous player through and through. Incredible football knowledge. You see him making the right reads. Everything you ask from a quarterback, he can do it. For me, obviously, the biggest surprise here, maybe it wasn't a surprise, but it was the Ravens actually scoring offensive touchdowns. 40 points, 40-0. Yeah, maybe a couple touchdowns to the Ravens defense, but we put up some touchdowns with the Ravens offense. The whole second half was ran by Ryan Mallett, a guy who couldn't even spell the word touchdown, and here we go, he's scoring touchdowns. It's pretty good. I was thoroughly impressed with what I saw. And I'm also starting to realize the Buccaneers, maybe their quarterback situation is more of a musical chairs type deal than an actual 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round, 3rd string type depth chart assignment. They don't know who they have at quarterback. And just today, they announced that Brock Osweiler will be starting this weekend. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But I think if you're ready, we can move on to Week 9 picks. You win?
Yeah, let's move on to Week 9.
All right. So kicking off the NFL action for this week, a game that I probably, in all honesty, guys, expect me to probably stream some Madden or some Fortnite, because I probably won't be watching this Thursday night game. Doesn't seem too interesting to me. I mean, it's the 5-2 Buffalo Bills, 3-5 New York Jets. Jets playing at home. Yeah, it's Thursday night football, and yeah, it's probably going to be a scrappy AFC East matchup. Both of these teams, with all due respect, have been playing better than we all expected them to do. Todd Bowles doing a great job, a really, really great job managing this team. And what I mean by that is look at the quality of losses and quality of wins. We talk about that all the time on this podcast. The quality of losses, the Jets have been in it. And what I mean by in it is they've kept the games close in every game that they've lost. That's something to be proud of. That means the defense is operating at a high level, offenses as well. Jets have a very, very good defensive line versus the run, and a run is exactly what the Jets are going to want to do versus a run-heavy type Bills team. The Bills like to run the ball a lot. I see them having some struggles going up against this Jets defensive line. As we mentioned earlier, Kelvin Benjamin is now traded away, and Buffalo Bills don't have him anymore. Buffalo Bills have Kelvin Benjamin, but they give up their 3rd and 7th round picks, which a lot of people on the internet were really mad about that. They felt like they gave up way too much for him. This, to me, in my opinion, I think is one of those games where Tyrod Taylor, we've seen him win the games on his arm, right? And we've seen him win the games on his legs. Well, this may be one of those games where Tyrod Taylor has to, not optional, has to win the game on his arm. And not on the legs of his own, but also on the legs of LaShawn McCoy. I think they're going to need to run the ball a lot in this one in order to be successful. And like I said, call me crazy, I don't see the Jets allowing any team to run on them a lot or in any kind of effective manner. I am going to go ahead and take the 3-5 Jets to win at home. What do you have, Alex?
The Jets, I know they're playing at home, but
listen up, NFL fans. Are you ready? This is the podcast on all things NFL. The fantasy football players.
I think it significantly helps out the Bills in their. Hold on, 1 second. Okay, I apologize. I messed up. I messed something up there with my audio.
Okay.
But yeah, with the Bills, like I said, the trade of Kelvin Benjamin helps them a lot more than I think people are giving them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
I think they got him for an absolute steal. I think you mentioned that there were Bills fans upset with giving up that much for Kelvin Benjamin. I've got to disagree with them. I think that it's a good win now move. The 3rd round pick, don't get me wrong, it's a good pick to have. But I don't think Carolina is going to get the same value in the 3rd round of this draft that they had in Kelvin Benjamin. So there's that. In addition, the Jets, I know they're playing at home, but they haven't really played well at home either. They're very beatable. Mm-hmm. So I have the Bills winning this one. I also have them covering the 3-point spread. I just can't trust the Jets against that very fine Bills defense. So if you're looking for a fantasy play this week, I think LaShawn McCoy is still a good play, despite the Jets being very good on defense. In addition to that, Tyrod Taylor is always a sneaky good play available in a lot of leagues. And then, again, Kelvin Benjamin switching teams might be a good play if you could get him for cheap. In addition to that, Zay Jones, who is their now 2nd receiver, I think it's going to help him out a lot. Now he's going to get a little less attention thrown his way that he's been getting in previous weeks. So he might be due for a breakout game as well.
I agree. Totally agree. So sounds like we are going opposite ways on this one. On Thursday Night Football, kicking it off. I'm going Jets. You're going Bills? Taking the Bills?
Yeah, I'm taking the Bills, but I thought you took the Jets.
I'm taking the Jets.
Oh man, okay, we're going head to head on this one.
Yeah, we're going head to head right from the start. We're not.
Well,
It's not going to be one of those weeks that people have expecting and seeing in the last couple of weeks. We're going to be different on a lot of picks this week, and I feel it.
oh really? Okay.
I do believe it. Yeah. So like 5-2, or maybe not this one. We got the 5-2 LA Rams going up against a 1-6 New York Giants. Giants playing at home in this one. Both of these teams are coming off of a bye. Giants offense remains dreadful at best. Offensive line is terrible. They don't run the ball enough. Eli constantly taking shots. And on top of that, he doesn't even have very many weapons that are still out there to go to. Rams are starting to get a little bit more comfortable in that Wade Phillips defense that they're in. I don't know if this Rams team is good enough to go to the playoffs, go deep into the playoffs, but I do know that they're good enough to beat these New York Giants. A matchup to watch in this one, and if you have him starting in your fantasy league, is Jared Goff versus the New York Giants defense. They just added Andrew Whitworth and John Sullivan to that offensive line that was struggling for the Rams. So that's even better news. Just to keep Jared Goff more comfortable in that pocket, I think that this one's going to be a very one-sided affair. I'm taking the Rams.
Yeah, I am really high on the Rams. I am probably a little bit higher on the Rams than you are at this point in the year. They've really surprised me, and I really like their offense. In addition to that, I got to say their defense has really impressed over the last couple of weeks and made significant improvements. So right now, in terms of points against per game, don't look now. The LA Rams are ranked 11th in the league. They were not that high earlier on in the year. So their defense is coming together. The offense is still the number 2 scoring offense in football right now, and it's number 2 by a very small margin, 0.4 points. So it's a very good offense. And first off, I got them winning this game. I think they're going to come out and really have no problem beating the Giants just because of the injuries that the Giants have had. Mm-hmm. That Giants offense is having a really tough time, and the defense just can't keep bailing them out constantly. But when you talked about the Rams possibly making a playoff run, I think they're scary. And here's why. They're a young team, and young teams are usually just they think they can beat anybody. And I think that's a really dangerous opponent to pull, especially in maybe a wild card matchup, or let's just say the Rams get a bye week. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to go in and face the Rams at home, especially with their confidence as a young team. So I got the Rams this week. If you're looking for a fantasy play, Jared Goff's a good one. I think Sammy Watkins can have a really good game here. Rams D might be a really good play, probably available in a lot of leagues for you. And then Todd Gurley, if you have him, you got to use him.
There you go. There you go. All right, so we are both on the Rams. Here, I think we're going to split again. We got the 4-4, my team, my Baltimore Ravens, pulling out that big win on Thursday Night Football against the Miami Dolphins. They are 4-4, taking on the 4-3 Tennessee Titans. This one's going to be played in Tennessee. As of right now, or as of actually 35 minutes ago, according to my ESPN update, Joe Flacco is going to be playing this weekend against the Tennessee Titans. But if worst comes to worst, and maybe that injury gets re-aggravated and Ryan Mallett comes in, I'm still kind of okay with that. Ryan Mallett, what he did in that second half versus Miami is he didn't do too many flashy plays. He managed that offense with a lot of low-risk plays, and it worked out quite well. Defensively, the Ravens are looking amazing. Let me rephrase that. They're looking amazing last week and like several weeks before that. They're very hot and cold type defense. I hope that they remain hot after coming off of a Thursday night shellacking like they did. They allowed 0 points to Miami, put up points on defense as well, 40-0. That's a statement game. Titans, though, they're not something that you want to shake a stick at. They are coming off of a bye week. Mariota, before going on a bye week, Mariota didn't look that great. And I wonder Not that you would know this, Alex, because your team had a week 1 bye, but usually bye weeks are used to address faults and difficulties in a team. And I'm wondering if one of those things that they addressed was Mariota's inconsistency. We're going to find out this Sunday, but I'm still taking the defense of the Ravens over anything that anything that the Titans have offensively. I think it's going to be tough sledding for them. I'm going to take my Ravens to win. Who do you have?
Yeah, I'm not going to split on this one with you because I actually really like the Ravens after what I saw on Thursday Night Football. They've been a really hard team to kind of put a pin on and figure out what really are the Ravens. Are they a 7-9 team? Are they a 9-7 wild card team? Are they a division contender? I don't know. The offense is just too inconsistent. The one thing that the Ravens have going for them is their defense has been relatively consistent this year. With Tennessee, I have some serious questions about the offense. When you look at their offensive rating, they're middle of the pack. But when you look at some of the games that they've had this year, it's really scary to see a team go play Cleveland and only get field goals and win in overtime.
Yeah.
That really showed me a lot about the Titans. And then when you look at other games, their loss to the Dolphins, they only put up 10 points. Their loss to the Texans, another good defensive unit, they only put up 14 points. So even week 1, they lost to the Raiders, only put up 16. So they've had some games where they score really well, and then they've had other games where they just look completely lost on offense. When it comes to Marcus Mariota, I think it does rest squarely on his shoulders. The run game hasn't been there, so there's that. But I think really over the course of the next season and a half, the Titans are going to have to make a determination if this is the franchise guy. And if you want to throw something at me, that's fine, because I'll tell you right now, my favorite team is having the same issue with Jameis Winston. Trying to figure out, is this a franchise guy that we can build around for a decade, or is this somebody who eventually we're going to have to move on from? So I have the Ravens winning this one. And if you're looking for a fantasy play, I would tell you Joe Flacco, if he plays. Ryan Mallett, if he plays, I think is a solid play. He looks re-energized. He looks like he's more dedicated to football. That's always been Ryan Mallett's problem, is his dedication. And he looks dedicated here in Baltimore. And then I think Baltimore D is a good play too.
Okay, so while you were just talking, I did a quick stat check on Ryan Mallett. He is available in 97% of leagues right now. For good reason? Maybe. But he's available.
Well, I mean, if he starts, right, if they find out, hey, this guy's going to have to start, and you're looking for a quarterback as a streaming option because there's a lot of buys this week, might be a good guy to pick up, especially in a deeper league.
True. Okay. Well, you mentioned Jameis Winston. Let's talk about that. Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2-5 now. Going up against a 5-2 Saints. This is going to be played in New Orleans. I guess you could call it an NFC South battle. I don't see much of a battle taking place, though. New Orleans, we talk about hot streaks. New Orleans is definitely on that hot streak. They have won now 5 consecutive games in a row. Alex, no offense to you, bro. I got to say this. I know it's going to hurt you. The Bucs defense is terrible. Going from what they were week 1 to what we're getting now, week 8, week 9, the Bucs defense is just playing terrible. Saints D, on the other side, they're on a positive trend. Their defense has improved incrementally. They've got guys like Marshawn Lattimore, Marius Williams, Cam Jordan actually is in the running right now for being a defensive player of the year. We'll see if he remains that, if he holds that position towards the end of the year. But as of right now, he's the defensive player of the year candidate. Tampa Bay, like you said just a few moments ago with Jameis Winston, has to get that offense going. They drafted O.J. Howard, right? They acquired Deshaun Jackson. They gave Jameis Winston toys to play with. And now they're saying, here, kid, go play with them. But they're just not working out for him for whatever reason. That Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, they're so talented offensively. They have to be scoring more points. And same could be said about my Ravens. We got a lot of weapons. We got to be able to score more points. ultimately, we got to help your boy Jameis Winston, bro. In both wins, and here's a formula that I kind of drew up as I was looking at the Buccaneers schedule this year and the stats breakdown. So they're 2-5, right? In both of those 2 wins, they as a team have rushed for over 100 yards. And those 5 losses, they rushed for less than 100 yards. I know it's really simplistic, and I doubt it's anything of any kind of indication at all, but hey, maybe they do need to rely on the run game a little bit more, if anything, just to take the pressure off of Jameis Winston for 1 or 2 plays here and there. So, do I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win this week? I don't. I'm taking the Saints to win at home and win 6 in a row now. So, I'm taking the Saints. What about you?
It is one that we can all agree on. When the Bucs have run the football, they've looked like a better team. So when Doug Martin has things going, the Bucs look like a more complete offense. Jaquiz Rodgers, Charles Sims is a pass catcher. It's not really a runner. Jaquiz Rodgers hasn't shown me much. Neither is Peyton Barber. So for me, the key for the Bucs is try to get Doug Martin involved early and often. However, with that comes finishing drives. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense has gone down the field in consecutive weeks now on initial opening drives, gotten into the red zone, and then gotten themselves out of scoring position due to penalties. So there's a lack of discipline on offense. There's a lack of cohesiveness on offense. And they oftentimes play from behind in situations where the defense knows they're going to have to pass. And unfortunately, I love Jameis Winston. I really do. I want him to be the quarterback of the future for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's the #1 overall pick. You don't want that to be a bust. But he forces the ball to Mike Evans like nobody's business. And defenses are really starting to key in on that, because if you watch scouting tape on him, he will force feed Mike Evans. He will throw into double coverage to try and get it to Mike Evans. So the buddy ball has to go away, and the Tampa Bay Bucs have to play better defense. Here's the problem. They're facing the Saints, who are red hot right now, playing some of the best football in the NFC. A lot of people slept on them, including myself this year. Their offense is the New Orleans offense that you always remember. And again, don't look now, but the New Orleans offense, or defense rather, is number 12 in the league in terms of points scored against this year. Did not see that coming, but a huge credit to the New Orleans front office for going out and drafting guys like Marshawn Lattimore, who should be your defensive rookie of the year. No doubt about that. He's completely changed the dynamic of that secondary by himself. So it's going to be a tough game for Jameis Winston. This is not a game for Jameis Winston to come in and have a nice little cupcake defense to go against. This is a legit defense. They're going to give him hell. And I think that I think the Saints win this one. I think they cover the 7-point spread. It kills me to say that. But with the Bucs 0-3 on the road this year, they haven't played good on the road. I don't see that starting now, especially against a team that is historically very, very strong at home. So I got the Saints. If you got Mike Evans, you got to play him because he's going to get targets. Deshaun Jackson, probably good play on the Bucs. Doug Martin, it's a coin toss, but if you're desperate, maybe put him in a flex. And then on the Saints, anybody on that Saints offense, good pick this week.
There you go. There we have it. So we are both on the Saints this week. Here we go again with the Denver Broncos, a team covered in question marks right now, and it shows by their record. They're 3-4, taking on the league's best team right now, and in many people's opinions, including mine, the Philadelphia Eagles, 7-1, playing at home. In this should be a primetime game, but it is a 12 p.m. kickoff game. Eagles, as I just mentioned, have the best record in the NFL right now. It doesn't matter what angle you look at it, it is a bad, bad, bad situation if you're the Denver Broncos. You are coming off of a road game, going to yet another road game, and look who it is. You have to go into Philly now and take on the league's best team. QB situation, absolutely awful. Trevor Siemian can't drive the team down the field if his life depended on it, and the team proved it today by announcing that he's been demoted and we are going to go ahead and start Brock Osweiler as our starter this week against the Eagles. By the way, Brock Osweiler, he must be shaking in his boots right now, knowing that he has to go up against that defense. You don't want to face any kind of defense that looks like Philadelphia's defense with a bad quarterback, and that's what we're going to be seeing in this one. Philly, they just picked up Jay Ajayi, as we mentioned earlier on this podcast. Can he pick up this Eagles running game, which honestly has not been the best? This team has been successful on offense because of Carson Wentz. Can Jay Ajayi pick up the running game and get them more yards rushing? Okay. In my opinion, I don't think he can. Why? Because, let's see, we are in week 9 now. Jay Ajayi spent half a year with the Miami Dolphins and wasn't able to do it there. Now, you're telling me he's going to spend half of a week with Philly and he's going to do it there? Sorry, man. I'm not buying it. But they won't have to run the ball too much. They're playing against a really bad Denver team. I'm taking Philly to win this week.
Yeah, I really like Philly. I know I've been singing their praises on Twitter and on the show for the last month or so. They've really shocked a lot of people, including myself this year. I thought they were a playoff team. I certainly did not have them going 7-1 through week 8. Carson Wentz, no doubt about it. I think you got to start looking at him as an MVP candidate. I know some people are hesitant to do that. And I also have to say a lot of people have used the excuse for the Eagles, well, they haven't played anybody good yet. Well, I would disagree with you because if you look at their schedule, they have had a couple quality opponents within their division. But in addition to that, excuse me, guys. So in addition to that, they don't set the schedule. Okay, they didn't pick this schedule. Right. All they're doing is beating the opponent that's in front of them each week. I think that Jay Ajayi is a good pickup for them just because it gives them another dimension, right? So I think they miss Darren Sproles a little bit more than people realize because Darren Sproles was that perfect change of pace guy. LeGarrette Blount has done very well for himself this year, and the Philly rushing attack hasn't been awful. They're actually averaging 129 rushing yards a game. So it hasn't been the worst. It's just they want to get that extra little oomph that they're missing from not having Darren Sproles. I think Jay Ajayi can bring that to the table for them. I think he'll be in a better situation in terms of an offensive line and also a better locker room. As for the Broncos, I think starting Osweiler is a good idea to see what you have in him before inevitably they're going to go and start Paxton Lynch, see what they have in them. I think they're in a team that's in evaluation mode. They're trying to figure out what pieces they're going to keep, what pieces they're going to get rid of, and move in the offseason so they can hopefully get back to contention. I have Philly winning this one, and I think they will cover that 8.5-point spread. The Broncos have just looked completely lost, and I got to say, Brock Osweiler, all those tapes are out there. He's a very easy quarterback to scout. He is. You know, it was shown last year in Houston, and it was even shown later on when he was, you know, those last couple of games he played with the Broncos. Defenses started catching up because there was tape on him. So this is going to be a tough one for Osweiler. I have the Eagles covering the spread. I'd stay away from anybody on the Broncos in fantasy. And for the Eagles, Carson Wentz, great play. LeGarrette Blount would be a great play. Jay Ajayi might be available for really cheap. Might be worth picking up and stashing.
How about that Eagles defense special teams? If they're available. I mean, it's a solid
any Eagles receiver. Zach Ertz gets tons of any tight end for the Eagles or wide receiver. I would pick them up and use them this week.
There you have it. I like that. He said team in repair mode. I really like that. It makes sense. That's what's going on there. Next up, we got the 3-4 Cincinnati Bengals taking on to Jacksonville. They're 4-3. This one's going to be played in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is coming off of a bye in this one, and look who they come back to off of a bye. They have a new defensive tackle from the Bills, Marcel Darius. It's a guy they gave up a 6th-round pick for, but you know it's going to be a much welcomed addition to this team because whether or not you like to face it, the Jacksonville Jaguars have struggled mightily against the run. I think Marcel Darius is going to be that guy that's going to help stuff up the run. Excellent addition if you're a Jags fan. Whereas on the other side for Cincinnati, it's been really tough sledding for that offensive front. An offensive front, by many people's definition, is not the most talented. Same goes for Blake Bortles. Okay, Blake Bortles and his offensive line for Jacksonville, not very good. I have this being a close game. I really do. Jacksonville, from what I understand, it's possible they might be getting rookie D.D. Westbrook to get his season debut this week against the Bengals at home. And we don't know what to expect from him, but I think that he could be an explosive element for that Jacksonville offense. You know, I think that this is going to be a very, very close game. I have it I'm thinking of a score maybe like 24-21, 21-17, something like that. But I have Jacksonville winning in this one. And if I'm starting anyone in fantasy, it's tough to say. It is really tough to say because in our league, there's not very many Jaguars that are still on. That are still unclaimed. Everyone's claimed, so if you want one, you have to put a trade through. But if you have anyone, and I do mean anyone starting, or if you have anyone that you can pick up, go ahead and pick them up. I think they're going to have a great day against the Cincinnati Bengals. I really do. Alex?
So for me, this is not such a close game. I really think that the Bengals looked very weak last week against the Indianapolis Colts. They barely won that game. I don't think the Colts are a good team. So for the Bengals to go in there and struggle on offense to put up points against such a weak defense, I feel like this is a really tough game for the Bengals. They're playing on the road. They're facing the Jaguars, who right now have the top-rated defense in terms of points scored against in the NFL. Obviously, the Jaguars got their defensive tackle in Marcel Darius. I think they got him for an absolute steal. It was definitely a salary dump. I think that's one of the things that people always talk about. Well, nobody's ever won a championship with salary cap room. Well, the Jaguars had enough room to where they could absorb Marcel Darius's hefty salary, and they got him for a steal as a result.
Absolutely.
So it just goes to show having a little bit of cap room can do a lot for your team throughout the season. Anyway, I think as long as they can keep the ball out of Blake Bortles' hands as much as possible, the Jaguars should be able to win this one pretty handily and cover the 5-point spread. I would stay away from anybody on the Bengals not named A.J. Green. A.J. Green seems to just be Teflon this year. No matter what, he still puts up some points. Joe Mixon might be a good flex play, but beyond that, I'm staying away from the Bengals. On the Jaguars front, I'd stay away from Blake Bortles. I'd stay away from any of their receivers, but I do think Leonard Fournette could have another big game. He's been amazing this year. So as long as he plays, good pickup. And then the Jaguars D, I think, if you're in a league that gives you a 1-point bonus for each sack, definitely one to pick up this week if you can get them.
Absolutely. And, they are available in most leagues as well. Jacksonville defense. And the good thing about Jacksonville, not only do they get you turnovers, but they score off a turnover. So that's something you look for in a defense special teams and fantasy. Next up, we got, another rivalry game. Atlanta, 4-3, taking on the Carolina Panthers that are 5-3. Panthers playing at home in this one. These are both teams, regardless of what you think of them, they're upper echelon teams, but both teams are struggling on offense right now. Atlanta last week played a heck of a game against the New York Jets in a very rainy, foggy game. It was nasty to look at, but the Jets gave them a fight. As we mentioned earlier, the Jets always keep the games close, even when they lose, and really gave Atlanta a run for their money for all 4 quarters. And that was a very, very tough game for Atlanta to win. And it's games like that, in my opinion, that give you momentum going forward. And I think Atlanta has that momentum now. Cam Newton still, I don't know what it is with him. He looks incredibly inconsistent. I don't know if it's because Dannon dropped him as a sponsor. I don't know what it is, but he is looking incredibly inconsistent, bro. The offensive line and his supporting cast too. Let me just say, it's not just him; it's his supporting cast. His offensive line looks absolutely lost out there. And to top it all off, Kelvin Benjamin is now gone. You know, he was one of his mainstays. He's gone, and look what the team gave up for him: a 3rd and 7th round pick. This is going to be the 3rd road game for Atlanta, but I also see this being a win for Atlanta. I'm taking Atlanta.
Yeah, with this particular game, Vegas seems to really like Carolina in this one. They're listed as a 1-point favorite, but I got to say, this is the Purple Swordfish upset pick of the week here. Because I'm going against Vegas on this one, which is not something I easily do. But I think the Falcons are a team with their back up against the wall. They truly believe they're a Super Bowl contender. And I really like that about them, that even though they're 4-3, they really think that they can go back to the Super Bowl and win it all. Here's another interesting thing about Atlanta that I didn't realize until we started recording. They're actually playing better on the road this year than they are at home. They're 3-1 on the road, and they're 1-2 at home, which I did not expect from Atlanta this year. So I think, Atlanta goes into this game knowing we have to win to keep up with the Saints and have a shot at the division crown. Meanwhile, the Panthers, I think they're a team in disarray. Cam Newton, I don't care what anybody says, he cannot be happy about that trade. I know the Panthers front office feels like there was some redundancy between Devin Funchess and Kelvin Benjamin. Kelvin Benjamin obviously heading towards free agency, so that's the guy you're going to unload. But I got to say, I question how that's going to affect the locker room. The good news is it kind of opens up some opportunities for guys like Curtis Samuel. But nevertheless, I still don't like the Panthers offense. And the last thing they needed to do was lose a playmaker. So I think they're going to continue to struggle on offense. And the defense just isn't going to be able to carry them against an opponent like the Falcons. So I have the Falcons winning this one in an upset. I would tell you Julio Jones is a solid play despite the Carolina D being very solid. Devontae Freeman, always another solid play despite whoever he's going against. Same thing with Matt Ryan.
Right.
I'd stay away from the Falcons D because I just don't trust them. I don't know why. I just don't trust the Falcons D. And then with the Panthers, I actually own Cam Newton. I'm benching him this week. I can't trust. I can't trust anybody on that offense. I'm starting Phil Rivers over Cam Newton in the league where I own Cam Newton because I can't trust him week to week. It's either 8 points or 30. It's feast or famine.
Right. Okay. Alrighty. Next up, we have a 2-6 Indianapolis Colts team going into Houston to take on the 3-4 Texans. First off, before I say anything about this game, huge kudos go out to Deshaun Watson for what he did last week. He went and did the impossible. You guys know Seattle's a very tough place to play, especially if you're number one on the road. If you're a rookie, and number two, if you've never played there before. That pretty much sums up Deshaun Watson. He absolutely lit up that Seattle Seahawks defense. Again, it's a very difficult thing to pull off, and he did it. However, that defense worries me a little bit. Okay, that defense worries me a lot a bit. I don't trust the Colts defense at all. And honestly, I don't trust the Texans defense at all either. After they lost their leader in J.J. Watt, a lot has changed. They're not able to generate much of a rush anymore. There's really only one guy that pass rushes now for that team, and that's Jadeveon Clowney. Two of their best pass rushers are watching the game from the bench, that being Merciless and J.J. Watt. Hopkins, though, is a guy to watch on this Texans offense. This guy is quietly in the running right now for the most touchdown receptions in the league. I mean, he's very much under the radar type guy, and he is a absolute luxury for Watson to have out there. And I believe Watson's going to have another big day against a not so good Indianapolis Colts defense. I'm taking the Texans to win at home. And Watson is absolutely going to have a big game. Unlike last week where he had a big game and lost, this week he's going to have a big game and win. And that's my guy, too. If you have him in fantasy, start him. He's going to have a big game, no matter how you look at it. Alex?
I really feel like this could be a barn burner. I really didn't expect the Houston D to be this bad, but they're pretty bad this year.
They are.
I think the J.J. Watt injury has really hurt them. I agree there completely. They are the 29th ranked defense in points per game against. So that to me is just unbelievable how far they've fallen. Good news is the Houston offense is currently the highest scoring offense in the league. Deshaun Watson really proved me wrong. Will Fuller is having a tremendous year. DeAndre Hopkins having a tremendous year. Lamar Miller quietly putting up a very good year. So I think this was going to be a barn burner. I don't think that Houston's going to cover the 12.5-point spread. But you know what? The Colts, they're pretty bad this year. Jacoby Brissett, he's trying his best, and man, he's got some promise. But everybody else not named T.Y. Hilton on the Colts is kind of forgettable. So I do have Houston winning this one, but I don't have them covering the spread. I would stay away from anybody on the Colts not named T.Y. Hilton, maybe Jacoby Brissett if you're desperate for a QB starter, because I know he's available in a lot of leagues. I'd certainly stay away from the Colts D or the Texans D, but anybody on that Texans offense is a really good play. Deshaun Watson, again, available in a lot of leagues. DeAndre Hopkins, probably not as available. Same thing with Lamar Miller, but if you have him, I'd play him. And then Will Fuller, sneaky good year so far, and always a threat to have that big shot to the end zone. So you might be able to get him for cheap, and heck, he might even be available in some leagues if you're in a smaller one. So, but yeah, Houston wins, doesn't cover the spread.
They win, but they don't cover the spread. Okay.
Nah, that's 12.5-point spread. That's a lot, man.
That is a lot, but I can see why they have it set to 12.5.
Yeah,
but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, like I said, they're not going up against a very good team. We just got through talking about Seattle. Deshaun Watson playing a great game against Seattle. Well, Seattle, they have their own quarterback there. His name is Russell Wilson, and he's actually he's a little bit good too. Coming off of a really, really impressive home win, offensive showing against the Texans playing at home. Whereas Washington in this one, they are 3-4. They're going up against a 5-2 now, Seattle Seahawks, against Seahawks playing at home this one. Last week, Washington struggled a lot against Dallas. And numbers to number comparison, that makes me believe that they're also going to struggle this week to a Seattle Seahawks team that's a lot better than Dallas. So to me right there, that makes me think Seattle's going to win. But to even add up on that a little bit, Redskins are very, very banged up on offense. And it's such a bad thing to go into Seattle with a banged up offense against that vicious defensive front that Seattle Seahawks have. I don't see this one being a pretty game. Very, very one-sided affair. I don't even see it being close. Seahawks winning this one at home, in my opinion. And if you have Russ, start him. If you have Russell Wilson, start him. Another guy under the radar, which is actually available in our league, is Tyler Lockett. This guy's going to get you points, offense and special teams, punt returns, kick returns, everything. He's gonna be the under the radar guy, and I don't see anyone Arizona Cardinals on the Washington Redskins stopping him at all. So start him if you have him. Alex?
Well, for the Redskins, I think their back is up against the wall. They're another one of those teams where this is the week where they either turn it around and they go on a little bit of a run and they can maybe try to win their division, get in the playoffs in a wild card, or they're going to lose here and it's pretty much game over for them, and then they just kind of go into evaluating for the next year. Seahawks really showed a lot last week on offense. I think the pickup of Dwayne Brown was not covered by the corrupt mainstream media enough, because I think it was a really solid pickup that didn't cost them a lot. And it's definitely a win now move. So I like Seattle in this game. I still want to see a little bit more performance from their offensive line. I know I caught a lot of flack last week for not picking the Seahawks, and that's fine. I can totally agree with that because they clearly won the game. But we need to see more from that O-line before we can say Seattle's a contender instead of just a playoff team. Meanwhile, the Redskins, man, that Cousins situation with Kirk Cousins, it just keeps getting more and more dramatic because the one team that everybody thought was going to be going for Kirk Cousins in the offseason, they just got their quarterback that they think is their future. So one less landing place. The drama continues in D.C. But I do have the Seattle Seahawks winning this one. I think they'll cover the spread, which is a 7-point spread right now. Russell Wilson, really good play. I wouldn't touch anybody on the Redskins. It's just way too risky. They could get shut out in this game. You just don't know with Washington. But yeah, Russell Wilson, Seattle D is a good play, I think. And then in addition to that, Doug Baldwin and even Tyler Lockett would be good plays in the wide receiver flex spot.
Okay. And I kind of have to agree with that. It wasn't too many weeks ago where we were saying that Kirk Cousins has done enough, in our opinions, to be named or to be valued at that franchise quarterback position. And I'm kind of walking my words back a little bit right now because he hasn't been playing well. That's just a fact. Moving on.
I like him. I like him, though. I mean, if we could just take a minute to talk about that. I do think he's worth the money that he's asking for. He was asking for $20 million a year. And when you look at other quarterbacks that are getting that, I mean, geez, Brock Osweiler almost got $20 million a year. So I think he's worth the money he's asking for it. But I do think that the scouts are right. I don't know that he's the elite quarterback that's going to be able to put a team on his back a la Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees.
And you know what, though? I feel like we can't even compare those two quarterbacks. Look at the situation that Brock Osweiler was put in versus the situation that Kirk Cousins was put in. I mean, Peyton Manning came in and set up that Broncos offense, right? And he kind of set up that team for this young guy to get in there and kind of, just jump in the driver's seat and continue and not really have to mess too many things up. Everything was set for him. Whereas with Kirk Cousins, he really has to let his quarterback play show. He has to make up for not having incredible weapons. He's got to make up for not having maybe some of the best coaches that Peyton Manning had at his disposal. So that's why I'm thinking, maybe he's slightly above average. I'll give him that, but I don't think he's worth the franchise tag anymore. I am personally walking that portion back.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand on that. We have our last of our afternoon games now. 3-4 Arizona Cardinals taking on the still winless 0-8 San Francisco 49ers. It's a game where we're going to have backup quarterback versus backup quarterback. Drew Stanton versus C.J. Beathard, right? And ultimately two very, very bad teams. Arizona coming... they had a bye week last week, but before the bye, many people want to forget that this happened, but Arizona lost 33-0 against the Rams in London. Okay. And this is actually the Cardinals and Niners game right now. This is the second matchup of the year for them. The first matchup, if you may remember, it went to the overtime, and that was with Carson Palmer playing for the Cardinals. So, in my opinion, and here's the big double R upset of the week. All right, I don't think get your seatbelts on, get your chin straps buckled. But if they were able to take the game into OT, and Carson Palmer was under center, I think that without Carson Palmer, 49ers can get this win. I'm thinking 49ers are going to get their first win of the year this week. Don't start anyone in fantasy in this game. Nobody. But, yeah, they might get their first win this week. I'm taking them.
Well, Carlos Hyde might kind of sort of be playing. I mean, I don't know. It's tough, man.
It is.
This is, I mean, this, I'm sorry if you're a Cardinals or 49ers fan, I'm going to apologize in advance. But this game should be called the NFC West Dumpster Fire Party, because that's what this is. It is just a terrible matchup between two bad teams. I'm amazed that the Cardinals are 3-4, but one of those wins came against the Bucs, so it shouldn't surprise me too much. But you know, it's not going to be a good game. The last game, it almost ended in a tie. This game, I think it's going to be the same way. Neither team's going to be able to score. It's just going to be really lots of punts, lots of field goals, lots of special teams. Basically, if there's one team that makes one big play in this game, they'll win it. I'm going to go with the Cardinals just because they're, you know, I don't know. I don't really have a reason for that. I just feel the Cardinals in this one.
You're just taking the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take the Cardinals.
Okay.
I don't even know that they're gonna cover the 2-point spread.
Okay, that's fine. I will gladly pick the 49ers and look like a genius when they ultimately keep the game close and possibly win it. So I'm sticking with my Niners. I know a lot of people aren't going up against them. Just to see, let's see the consensus real quick. Right now, there's a 23% consensus, or rather, 77% consensus that the Cardinals will win that matchup. Anyway, I don't really look at those numbers. I just make my picks to make my picks.
Does that 77% know that Carson Palmer isn't playing?
Probably not.
Because here's the thing. I mean, you know, they talk about it every year. Like, there hasn't been 0-0 tie in football in like 50 years. If there's one game where that could happen this year, this might be it. This might be the one. Right.
It's this one. All right. So, last of the afternoon games. I could see this being a very good game. The 6-2 Kansas City Chiefs going into Dallas to take on the 4-3 Cowboys. Right now, as it stands, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but Ezekiel Elliott will be able to play this week. Is he suspended, or can he play? I'm not sure. Let me know. Because last I checked, sorry, say again.
I was told as of last night when I said he was not going to be playing. Oh, he filed another appeal. Okay, first off, Double R, I got to ask this. I don't know anything about legal matters, so do we have a lawyer in the chat who could tell me how many appeals do you get in this country?
I think you can keep filing appeals. I don't think there is a set limit. You know, so pretty much.
Where are these judges coming from?
Essentially, what it is, if you don't think the call is right, you have a right to an appeal, and if you have good lawyers, you definitely have a right to appeal. And trust me, if you're Ezekiel Elliott, you've got the cream of the crop when it comes to lawyers. But anyway, whether or not Ezekiel Elliott plays, they've got guys to fall back on. Guys like Darren McFadden and Alfred Morris. Casey, what can I say about this team that hasn't been said already on this podcast? They're coming off of a very good win. They played at home versus Denver. Didn't get a whole lot of offense in that game, but they ended up playing a really, really quality game. Shout out to Alex Smith. Played a very, very like game manager type game where not very risky, but able to score points at the same time. If truly Ezekiel Elliott has played his last game of the 2017-2018 year, this is now where Dak Prescott has to step up and say, you know what? All right, I know you guys really like us, allowing the offense to go through Ezekiel Elliott, but he's gone now. Now the team's mine. Dak needs to make this his team. The team has to go through Dak. They can't go through, all these gadget-type plays. It has to go through Dak. They got to let him pass the ball. They got to let him do what made him successful last year, rather. An interesting matchup that I find in this one is Justin Houston of the Kansas City Chiefs versus Trevor Siemian. Or rather, what am I talking about? Justin Houston versus Dak Prescott, not Trevor Siemian. I don't know what I'm talking about. Justin Houston, this is a guy that I'm really glad that Casey is now allowing him to get after the quarterbacks. the whole year so far, aside from last week, they've said, you know what, we don't want you dropping, we don't want you rushing the quarterback. We want you to drop back. It looks so absurd to me to see highlights of these Kansas City Chiefs players and see, Houston dropping back 30 yards into coverage. Like, dude, what are you doing? You're supposed to be rushing the quarterback. What are you doing dropping back? But last week, it was really nice to see him the whole night just get after the quarterback, and it's clear like that's where he earns his money. And as long as he keeps doing that, he's going to be a very dominant force in that line. I don't know if this is going to be a one-sided affair or not. I know the records want to say opposite, but I have the Chiefs winning this one in a close one. I mean like a 3 or 4 point win. I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs. And then my start in this game, Tyreek Hill. Cowboys defense is absolutely terrible. Tyreek Hill is that burner guy that can hit him in the seams. They've used him a lot in the delay routes. They even have this really weird swing route that's been working quite well for the Kansas City Chiefs. Tyreek Hill's my guy in this one. I have him on my fantasy team too, so you should start him if you have him. Alex?
So as far as I could tell, Ezekiel Elliott's not playing, and I think that's a really big issue for the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's really going to affect them more than people let on. Just real quick, while we're talking about fantasy, if you haven't already, go out there, pick up Alfred Morris and or Darren McFadden if you own Ezekiel Elliott in fantasy. They're owned in about half of ESPN leagues right now. So a lot of people can just go out, pick them up out of free agency. But I think the Dallas defense has shown me no signs of getting better this year. The offense is going to struggle without Elliott. It's going to put a lot more weight on Dak Prescott, and I don't know that he's quite ready for that against the Chiefs defense that I think is a little bit better than people give it credit for. So with the Chiefs, I think they're going to be able to run the ball very effectively against Dallas. Dallas is currently giving up over 100 yards a game in rushing. That's going to open up things for playmakers like Tyreek Hill and Alex Smith to kind of go outside of all the check down routes, and be able to kind of swing the ball around. So I really think that Vegas has this one wrong. I think this is a really smart pick. Chiefs covering a 1 point spread. I don't know why Vegas only has it 1 point. Maybe they think Elliott's going to somehow come back, which I think would make it a closer game. But I have the Chiefs winning this one, covering the 1 point spread. Alex Smith, a good play. Chiefs running backs, good play. Any Chiefs wide receiver would be a good play. And then if you got anybody on the Cowboys, Des Bryant's a good play. I think he's going to get a lot of targets. Jason Witten, same thing. I think the Cowboys are going to have to pass it more. And that would be where I would go, other than picking up, Ezekiel Elliott's backups. And Alfred Morris is looking like he's going to get the majority of that work.
Okay, there you go. So we are both on the Kansas City Chiefs this week, and I did not know it was going to be a 1 point spread, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs should easily cover that. I wasn't aware that's what the line was. So, getting into now our Sunday night game. By the way, after we do these next two games, if you guys want to do any call-ins, Discord is where you want to be. Go ahead and jump in the NFL Talk Live waiting list, and we'll pull you in one by one if you have any questions or comments for us. Next up, we got the 3-5 Oakland Raiders playing a Sunday night football game against the 4-3 Miami Dolphins. Raiders not playing very good right now. They're playing awful. Coming up after a very, very tough loss against the Bills. Believe me, the Oakland Raiders fought hard in that one and still lost. The Oakland Raiders have a motto that's found all across their stadium. It's called Commitment to Excellence. I would like to say that they should change their motto to Commitment to Excrements, because that's what they're playing like. It's just a very, very bad team. Defense isn't very good either. Marshawn Lynch returns. I mean, that's, I guess, whoop-de-whoop. I guess he's going to add some kind of energy to that offense. Hopefully he doesn't put his hands on a ref again this time around. Jay Cutler's coming back for the Miami Dolphins. Jay Ajayi will not be coming back. He is now a proud member of the Philadelphia Eagles, a guy that, the the Eagles gave up their 4th-round pick for. But that just means will Damian Wilson or Kenyon Drake step up? As of right now, neither of those two guys have been named the emphatic starter. It's kind of up in the decision right now who they're going to start. Will Damian Williams start or Kenyon Drake? I can tell you in our league, as of like 4 or 5 hours ago, both of those two backup running backs have been picked up. So if you have not done so yet, I would check to see if both of those running backs are available in your league. Pretty good chance that they will be. Despite how bad the Oakland Raiders have been playing this year, they are facing a very, very bad offense right now, and they lost one of their major keys players, Jay Ajayi. And honestly, Jarvis Landry, I don't know what's up with him this year, but he has not been playing well either. Oakland Raiders is going to be my go-to for Sunday Night Football. That's who I'm picking. Alex?
Yeah, I don't know that this is going to be the most tantalizing Sunday Night Football matchup of the year. I don't think people are going to be waiting all day for Sunday night. So it's a tough matchup for the Dolphins. Their offense is just so week to week. I don't know what I'm going to get from them, but I got to say the loss of Jay Ajayi this is not addition by subtraction.
No.
I don't think it's going to make anything better for them. And Jay Cutler coming back, again, I just don't know what to expect from Jay Cutler week to week, just like anybody else on that offense. So I really can't trust them. The Raiders, they've also been up and down this year, but they've been a little bit more consistent against bad opponents. So I do have them winning this one on the road. Mm-hmm. Shockingly enough, West Coast team winning on the East Coast on the road in a night game, no less. So I have them winning, covering the 3-point spread. If you're looking for somebody in fantasy, I would tell you Derek Carr, excellent play. Crabtree's having a really good year. People are sleeping on him, but he's having a really good year. Amari Cooper has seemed to kind of wake up. So if somebody's looking to trade Cooper, they got kind of frustrated in your league, and they're looking to trade Cooper for cheap, might be a time to pick him up. I think both of those receivers are going to have a good game here. Jared Cook would be another one I would say will probably have a good week if you're looking for a tight end as a streaming option. Mm-hmm. I'd stay away from both D's. But, yeah, Oakland taking this one, covering the spread.
Okay, so we are both on Oakland. What was the spread for this game again?
3-point spread in Oakland's favorite.
Okay, so they're Oakland's giving 3 points. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, Oakland's giving 3 points. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think Oakland is a pretty safe bet in this one. There's no clear-cut winner. Obviously, if you go by records alone, it doesn't tell you anything, but the Dolphins are not a very good team, in my opinion. All right, and our final game of this week, and then we'll go to your calls, is the Monday Night Football game. The Detroit Lions, they're on a 3-4 record right now versus the 4-3 Green Bay Packers. Packers obviously still playing without their leader in Aaron Rodgers, and will be playing without their leader with Aaron Rodgers for the rest of the year. Detroit has now lost 4 out of their last 5 games. Let that really sink in for a second. With that being said, I checked the line of this game, and Detroit is still the early favorite over Green Bay in this game for whatever reason. I think that the Brett Hundley you'll see in this game is not going to be the same Brett Hundley that we've seen in earlier iterations. The Brett Hundley we see on the Monday Night Football is going to be different. Why? Because I think Mike McCarthy, he's a smart NFL coach, right? I think he realizes the talent that he's got under Brett Hundley, and he's going to allow this guy to spread his wings a little bit. Let him throw the football more. Let him explore more of the playbook. I mean, same criticism I had of Mitchell Trubisky, and they never addressed it. You can see they're still not letting Trubisky off that leash in Chicago. And I think the Green Bay Packers, seeing their neighbors and the Bears doing that, they have to right their wrongs too. I think that they're going to let Brett Hundley kind of be himself in this game, throw the ball at will. Hopefully he makes the most out of that and doesn't throw interceptions. But hopefully it goes well for him. And I think it's going to go well for him because, let's face it, Detroit Lions defense has not played well at all this year. And offensively, they're one of the worst at running the ball in the league. They can't get the ball going, so they have to throw it a lot. I see this being a Green Bay Packers. I know I'm picking against the spread here. I'm taking the Green Bay Packers to win at home on Monday Night Football. And my start of this game is tough to say, but Ty Montgomery is a guy that a lot of people dropped. It looks to be like he will be playing, and I know that in practices, him and Hundley have developed some kind of chemistry. So go ahead and start Montgomery if you have him. Alex?
Well, I am shocked. I did not see you picking the Packers here, and it's going to be I think our third or fourth game this week where we're going against each other.
I know.
I like Brett Hundley. I don't want to make this seem like I'm down on the guy at all. I think he's a very good backup. I think there's potential there to develop him into maybe somebody that they trade away at some point and gets a starting opportunity elsewhere. But I don't think that this is his time. And here's why. The Packers offense has struggled to move the ball with him effectively. I think they're also going to struggle here, even though the Detroit defense is not great. Mm-hmm. And the Packers defense is really porous. And while the Lions have struggled running the ball, I think this is their game to get the run going. The Packers are giving up over 120 yards a game on the ground. And that's primarily because they play very small fronts against teams, even in running situations. So I think Amir Abdullah, Theo Riddick are going to have some good games here. So I have the Lions. I have them covering the 2.5 point spread, and I know that's kind of it's one of the few times where you say taking the favorite is a little bit of a risky play. But I agree with you. It's tough to go into Lambeau and win, but I have the Lions winning, covering the spread. I think Matt Stafford's a good play. Golden Tate always a good play on the Lions, even though he fumbles for no reason now apparently. And then Amir Abdullah and Theo Riddick, if you have them, very good starts this week against that very porous Packers run D.
Okay, there you have it. That is our Week 9 NFL picks. Now we're going to go ahead and open up the lines. And if you guys have any questions, comments for any of us, feel free to call in. Our first caller, by the way, you're going to want to be in the NTL Show call-ins voice chat lobby. Our first caller tonight is Aid Munchies. Aid Munchies, what's going on, man?
How you doing?
Doing pretty well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
You have a comment or question for us?
I have a comment. I just want to say I think Jay Ajayi is a huge pickup for Philadelphia. And like Alex said earlier, he's going to add that extra oomph that the Eagles need for their run game. Mm-hmm. But I think he's going to help a lot passing. We're blocking the defenders because Blunt has struggled with that so far this year. And, Jay Ajayi can block defenders, and he's really good at that. So I think that's huge for Philadelphia.
And see, here's the thing. I didn't want to come off as saying that I don't respect what they did with the acquisition of Jay Ajayi. I think he's an incredible player. But to kind of backtrack and tell you guys what I thought, again, I didn't say that he's not going to do great for the Philadelphia Eagles. I just don't think he's going to take their shoddy run offense and turn it around in these 2 or 3 days that he's with the team. I just don't see that happening. Eventually, maybe it'll get there, but I don't see it happening. Yeah, later in the year, absolutely. I just don't see it happening this week. And if it does happen this week, trust me, next week I'll be like, hey, I apologize. Hey, this guy is a legend. He's always been a legend, So, Alex, what do you make of that?
I mean, in Munchies, you bring up a really good point, and I'm glad you pointed it out. The pass blocking is one of the biggest reasons they brought that guy in. LeGarrette Blount, very good runner, doesn't shy away from contact, but when it comes to taking blocks, he doesn't seem to do that very well. I think with Ajayi, he's a good third down back. Kind of brings what they were missing with Darren Sproles. I know Darren Sproles doesn't look like it, but the dude could throw a block when you needed him to in the pass games. So I think he gives them that element that they're missing. And it's not like this offense is left wanting each week. So it's still a very good offense. And to get Jay Ajayi for what kind of pick, I mean, it wasn't a very high pick. No. And quite honestly, anything after the third round in the NFL, a lot of those picks 4 through 7 they get cut in training camp or they get practice squatted up. So it's not such a bad deal. Probably the second best deal all week behind the Jaguars somehow stealing Marcel Darius in a salary dump. So, but yeah, Aiden Munchies, you're absolutely right. I think he brings pass blocking, and they need that.
There you go. Aiden Munchies, anything else you want to say?
I can't think of anything else.
Okay. I appreciate you calling in, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Well, if there's not going to be any other call-ins, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. Appreciate you all for tuning in to this Week 9 edition of the NFL Talk Live podcast. This has been me, Double R, and my co-host, Alex, a.k.a. PurpleSwordfish. Checking on out. We will see you next week for Week 10 of the NFL Talk Live podcast. See you then. Have a good week. And probably see you tomorrow on a live stream. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of NFL Talk Live. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of NFL Talk Live.